Every tank of diesel in Canada is priced against a barrel of oil traded in London. Not Calgary, not Edmonton, London. And right now, that London price is being set by a naval blockade in a waterway most Canadians have never thought about until it started emptying their wallets. The Canadians who understand exactly what is happening and what comes next will make better decisions on their mortgage, their business, and their household budget than the ones who do not. Subscribe so you are ahead of it. According to CBC News, Canada is the only country in the G7 with zero government-controlled oil reserves, not a small reserve, not an underfunded one, none. The United States keeps 714 million barrels in its strategic petroleum reserve. Japan maintains enough oil to cover 254 days of national consumption. Germany draws on IEA-mandated emergency stockpiles. Canada, the world's fourth-largest oil producer, keeps nothing the government can actually touch. When the IEA triggered its largest emergency release in history in mid-March, 400 million barrels from member nations, described by IEA Executive Director Fatih Birol, as a response to a crisis unprecedented in scale, Canada's contribution was 23.6 million barrels, assembled through phone calls to private oil companies, according to the Globe and Mail on March 15th. And according to the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, Suncor alone is cutting output by 85,000 barrels per day this quarter for planned maintenance that cannot simply be postponed on request. Canada showed up to the world's biggest energy emergency with a spreadsheet and a series of asks. The U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports went live on April 13th. No warning for consumers, no buffer for businesses. Brent crude jumped 7% in hours, hitting $102 a barrel, up 40% since the war began on February 28th, according to CNN Business. The two-week ceasefire that briefly nudged the Strait open is finished. Islamabad talks collapsed over the weekend without a deal. What is happening right now, today, April 14th, is that the world's most important oil shipping channel is effectively sealed. The emergency reserves that were supposed to buy the global economy time are nearly spent, and the one mechanism that would allow Canada to slow the price signal before it reaches a pump in Sudbury or a delivery invoice in Winnipeg, a government-held petroleum reserve, does not exist. Every other G7 nation has a valve. Canada has a phone. The economics of this are not complicated once you see the full chain. Before February 28th, approximately 20 million barrels of oil moved through the Strait of Hormuz every single day, 1/5 of everything the world burns, according to the IEA. Iran shut it down the moment U.S. and Israeli strikes began. The global oil price did what markets always do when supply disappears. It went up hard and fast. Brent crude sat near $64 a barrel in late February, according to TD Economics. Within weeks, it had cleared 115. Now here is where Canada's geography turns a global problem into a specifically Canadian one. The oil is in Alberta. The people are in Ontario and Quebec. There is no pipeline connecting them. According to Natural Resources Canada, refineries in Quebec and Atlantic Canada run entirely on imported crude. Ontario runs a mix. Those two provinces together, Ontario and Quebec, account for 55% of all gasoline consumed in this country, and their refineries are buying crude priced against Brent, not against what WTI is doing in Alberta. When the Strait of Hormuz closes and Brent spikes, the price at the Ultramar and Trois-Rivières moves in near real time. There is no domestic buffer, no government stockpile, nothing standing between the London trading price and the pump on the corner. The Canadian Automobile Association reported national pump prices above $1.80 per liter in early April, up from $1.32 a year ago. According to the Globe and Mail, a 36% increase in 12 months for a family that has not changed a single driving habit. And unlike every other G7 country, Canada has no lever to pull to slow that down. Something we genuinely want to hear from you. Right now, this month, not in theory, in your actual life, has the price at the pump changed a decision you made? Did you skip a trip? Rethink a purchase? Change where you shop for groceries? Tell us where in Canada you are and what is different about your week because of fuel prices. The comments on this video matter. Meet the person this story is actually about. He is 58, he owns his rig, and he runs construction materials between Rivière-du-Loup and Moncton on the Trans-Canada. No fleet manager behind him, no company fuel card, no corporate treasury hedging his diesel exposure, just him, his truck, his contracts, and the price board at the Irving Station in Edmundston. Before February 28th, he was spending roughly $4,200 a month on diesel, consistent with CAA pricing from that period. The same run schedule now costs him closer to $5,500 a month. That is $1,300 gone every single month from contracts he signed when diesel was 1.55 per liter, contracts he cannot renegotiate without losing the clients he spent years building. He has a variable rate mortgage on a house in the lower St. Lawrence. Two cost surges at once would be devastating. The Bank of Canada gave him one piece of genuine protection on March 18th when it held the overnight rate at 2.25% instead of hiking into the inflation shock. Governor Tiff Macklem was direct about it, as reported by BNN Bloomberg. "We can't fix the war. What we can do is ensure that if energy prices stay high, it does not become ongoing, generalized, persistent inflation." That decision means his mortgage payment is not climbing on top of his fuel bill. It is not getting his $300 back, but it is the difference between one crisis and two. Mark Carney has been on planes, Oslo, London, joint statements with European leaders, a public commitment reported by CP24 on April 8th that reopening the Strait of Hormuz will lower pump prices, fertilizer costs, and manufacturing inputs for Canadians. Carney understands the problem. His finance minister's office told the Canadian press on April 8th that downstream price shocks are under active assessment and that the spring fiscal update will be the moment for a fuller answer on fuel tax relief. That truck driver on the Trans-Canada is waiting for that update, doing the math every week, still rolling. 3 scenarios, no vagueness. Worst case first. The blockade holds through May and June. Diplomacy produces nothing. Wood Mackenzie's projection, reported in the Globe and Mail, that $150 Brent is possible and $200 is not outside the realm of possibility, becomes a working forecast rather than a worst-case number. Pump prices in eastern Canada push past $2.20 per liter. Heating oil bills in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick hit levels that force real choices between warmth and food for seniors on fixed incomes. The Bank of Canada, facing inflation running above its tolerance band, hikes rates instead of holding. Fixed-rate mortgage renewals across Brampton, Mississauga, and the entire 905 Beltland at rates that wipe out the equity gains of the last 2 years. That scenario is not hypothetical. That window is live. The next 2 to 4 weeks are the pivot point, according to oil executives quoted by Bloomberg and CNBC. Base case: quiet diplomacy produces a partial opening of the strait under multinational naval escort by late April or early May. Oil settles in the $85 to $100 range for the remainder of 2026. Gas finds a floor around 1.65 to 1.75 per liter. Carney delivers targeted fuel tax relief, something real, probably not the full 25-cent per liter holiday Poilievre is demanding, but meaningful. Before the May-long weekend, the bank holds at 2.25% through April 29th and June. The truck driver's monthly bill stops climbing even if it does not fully recover, grinding pressure for 3 to 6 months, then a slow exhale. Best case: a genuine, verified reopening of the Strait of Hormuz happens in the next 2 weeks. Oil drops toward $75. The bank cuts at April 29th. Variable rate holders across Canada get relief on 2 fronts simultaneously for the first time since this war started. And in that scenario, Canada's real long-term position becomes visible in a way it was not before February 28th. LNG Canada. Phase 1 in Kitimat, British Columbia. Operational since June 2025, shipping liquefied natural gas directly across the Pacific to Japan, South Korea, and Malaysia. Transits no contested waterway, touches no choke point, and depends on no foreign government's permission to move. TC Energy CEO François Poirier said, quoted by BOE Report on March 23rd, the Iran war makes a Phase 2 of that facility significantly more likely. The whole world now understands what Canada's Pacific geography actually means. That is the reserve Canada has always had. It just took a blockade to make everyone see it. If someone you know is renewing a mortgage this spring, running a small business with a shipping bill that looks different than it did in January, watching a heating oil statement arrive in Atlantic Canada, or simply trying to understand why everything costs more and nobody is explaining it clearly, send them this, not for the view count. Because this is the information that changes how you think about the next 6 months. And right now, that matters.